All right, hello 8 9s. Welcome to another exciting math video. So for today, what we're going to do is dive into some questions that deal with percent increases and decreases. All right, so our learning goals for today are as follows. I can find more than 100% of a number, and I can determine how much is left when a percentage decrease occurs. All right, so let's start off with this example here, dealing with a pond, just like the one in this lovely picture. So it says a pond. Sorry, I'm just going to zoom in a bit better here. 1 second. All right, so the question says a pond currently has a duck population of 72. If this increased by 12%, how many ducks would now live at the pond? All right, that's kind of cool because in a way this is kind of like a callback to what we've been doing in science class recently. We've been talking about populations and habitats. All right, well, anyway, let's go ahead and take a closer look at this question. I'm just going to open up my Paint Shop program here and finish the question in Paint Shop. Here we go. All right. So let's begin by asking ourselves what a percent increase is actually telling us. In this question, they told us that the duck population increased by 12%. All right, so these are important words. I'm going to underline them. Well, important pieces of information, I should say. One of them is a word, one of them is a percentage. All right, and the number 72 is also going to be an important part of solving this question as well. All right, so basically what's happening, folks, is there are 72 ducks at this pond, and our job is to determine what the duck population will be if it increases by 12%. All right, so if we're dealing with an increase in percentage by 12%, what that means is we're going from having 100% of the number that we started with to now having 100 plus the increase. All right, 100 plus 12 would be 112%. All right, now the last couple classes we were working on finding percentages of numbers, and we learned that to find a percentage of a number, you have to first take that percentage and convert it to a decimal. And there's a couple ways to go about that. You could either take the percent number and divide it by 100. All right, so if we were to do that here, 112 divided by 100 would give me 1.12. All right, and just a quick reminder, there's also a little shortcut you can use. If you just go straight to the number in the percent and put a decimal point at the end of the number before the percent sign, and then just move that decimal 2 to the left, you also have your decimal equivalent. Okay, so just like we found out when we divided by 100, 112% is the same as 1.12. All right, so now all we have to do is take that result, the 1.12, and times it by the population number, which is 72. Okay, and that gives us our answer. Let's just pull up calculator here and find out what the heck the answer actually is. 1 second. One moment, please. Here we go. All right, so it's 1.12 times 72. Okay, and that gives us 80.64. Interesting. All right, now it's not possible to actually have 0.64 of a duck, at least not a living duck. So in this case, we would actually round our answer down to 80. All right, because, yeah, we're not going to find 0.64, 64 hundredths of a living duck. Okay, at least I hope not. That would be pretty gruesome. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to another question now. All right, so this question says, the same pond has a fish population of 185. If this population were to decrease by 60%, how many fish would be left? All right, let's find out. I'm just going to take a little screen capture of the question and go back to Paint for us to find the shocking conclusion to this question. Okay, so the same pond has a fish population of 185. Actually, hold on, folks. You know what I'm actually going to do? I think I'm going to copy and paste this solution into our document because it's good to have. So just give me 1 sec. I will do that really quick. There we go. Okay, and we'll just go ahead and try the next question now. Okay, here we go. All right, so a few things that we got to take note of. First of all, we want to take note of whether we're dealing with an increase or a decrease. All right, in this case, it's a decrease by 60%. Okay, and also underline the number that you're working with because that's going to obviously play a role in your answer. All right, so in this case, it's a decrease by 60%. So we're going from having 100% to having 60% less. Okay, 100 minus 60 is 40%. Okay, and 40% as a decimal, if we do our little decimal trick, we find out really quick that it's going to be 0.40. All right, so to find out how many fish are left, we're going to go 0.4 or 0.40 and times that by the fish population of 185. Okay, let's see what that works out to. Oopsie. 0.4 times 185 equals 74. All right, so in this case, we don't have to worry about rounding because it's already a whole number. Okay, so let's go ahead and add that to our document as well. Try the next question. All right, so we have a lovely picture there of Cloud9 Superstore and a question that says, a retail store is planning to increase the price of every item it sells by 23% to keep up with inflation costs. What will be the new price of an item that is currently $44? Oh boy, that's not as fun of a question, but let's go ahead and try it. Okay, so let's go back into Paint here, copy the question, and find the solution. All right, so in this question here, we're dealing with an increase. Okay, and it's an increase of 23%. Okay, and our job is to find out if the cost of, if an item is $44 and its price is going up 23%, what the new price will be. So like before, we're starting with 100% of the price in this case. And we're adding 23% to that, so it's going to end up being 123% of what we started with. Okay, so we'll do our little decimal conversion. Move the decimal 2 to the left. Okay, so it's going to be 1.23 times 44. Okay, let's see what that works out to. Calculator, where are you at? There we are. 1.23 times 44. Okay, that gives me 54.12. Okay, and since we are dealing with dollars and cents, we're going to put a dollar sign in front of there. So the item that used to be $44 is going to cost you $10.12 more now after the 23% increase. Yeah, it's a lot of money to spend on something that used to be only $44. That's the story of my life, actually. Okay, let's try one more question here, and then I'm going to let you try a few on your own. All right, so again, another kind of depressing question. In this case, it says, sadly, this same store has seen an 8% drop in revenue compared to the previous year. If the store brought in $125,000 revenue last year, how much did it bring in this year? Okay, so let's go ahead and try this question as well. Oops, my apologies. I got too much going on my computer at once here. Okay, so I've got to take a screenshot of the question and go back to Paint. There we go. So let's try this last example question. All right, so in this question, we're dealing with 8%, an 8% drop, which is the same as saying a decrease. Okay, and the number that we're working with is 125,000. So in this case, what's happening is we're starting with 100% of something. It's going down 8%. Okay, so 100 minus 8 gives me the new percentage, which is 92%. Okay, so we have 92% of last year's revenue. All right, let's convert that to a decimal using our little trick. Okay, so that moves 2 to the left. We got to put a 0 in front of our decimal point there. All right, so we're going to take 0.92. Okay, and we're going to times that by 125,000. All right, so let's see what that works out to. 0.92 times 125,000. All right, and we're told that that works out to $115,000. All right, so that's a pretty big drop in revenue from one year to the next. $10,000. Poof, just like that. Right, so this question is actually cool in the sense that it shows us that even what seems like a small percentage drop, like 8%, can actually be a lot if it's if you're dealing with a large quantity of something, like in this case $125,000. 8% of that's actually quite a bit. Okay, so I have a worksheet for you to try that deals with percent increases and decreases. Now, because I'm such a nice person, what I'll do is I'll do the first 2 questions with you in this video here. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick screen capture of those questions, and we'll finish those in Paint Shop once again. Okay, so back to our Paint program here. Oh yeah, first I got to copy and paste this. I'm sorry. One second, my good friends. We'll add that to our document. Okay, there we go. All right, and now we're ready to try those first 2 questions from your worksheets. Okay, here we go. All right, I'll just separate those to give us a little space to work each question out. Okay, so the first question, they're saying it's an increase of $1,500 by 35%. All right, so that means we're going from having 100% of 1,500 to having 135% of that number. Okay, so remember, increase means that percentage is being added, okay? Okay, so now we're going to turn this to a decimal using our little trick. That decimal place, sorry, it's a little hard to see. Let me try that again. I'll just switch to a little thinner brush there. Okay, so the decimal goes there. It moves 2 to the left like that to become a decimal. Okay, so we're going to go 1.35 times 1500. Okay. Okay, remember when you're doing a question that deals with money to include your dollar sign, okay? Okay, so that works out to 2,025. Dollars, not the year we're currently in. Okay, let's go ahead and tackle number 2 now. Now you can tell that this won't be exactly the same as the last question we did, because this one is now dealing with a decrease. Okay, so decrease means this percent is going to be subtracted from 100, and then we'll convert that to a decimal and multiply by 840. All right, so if we're going down 15%, that means we're starting with 100. We're minusing 15 in this case. And actually, I do apologize. I probably should have been writing this the whole time, the minusing. But I mean, I'm pretty sure you get the idea regardless. Okay, so in this case, since it's a decrease, the percentage is getting subtracted from 100, leaving us with 85%. All right, so now we're going to convert the 85% to a decimal using our little trick. Okay, so that decimal point's going 2 to the left to become 0.85. We're going to go 0.85 times 840. Okay, and again, this is a money question, so make sure to include a dollar sign in your answer. All right, so 0.85 times 840 equals $714. All right, so go ahead and do questions 3 through 15 on your worksheets. Happy mathing to you. Oh yeah, before you get to that though, I do want to show you this. You just gained a math level. Congrats. Okay, so you're ready for today's assignment, which is the rest of your percent increase and decrease worksheet. All right, so like I said before, thanks for tuning in and happy mathin'. Bye for now.